This happened a few weeks ago. I'm 32 now and just moved back to my small town to take care of my grandma. I thought I'd have some time to explore the local legends I never paid much attention to as a kid. I'm not an expert on folklore, but I figured I could piece together a few stories for my next article. It felt like a good way to connect with my roots, I guess. And honestly, I've never stopped thinking about it. I went to the old library first. It smelled like dust and old paper. The librarian, Mrs. Finch, barely looked up as I walked in. It was the same as I remembered, shelves creaking under the weight of forgotten tales. I picked up a few books. They felt heavy in my hands, like they were full of secrets. I flipped through one with brown pages and faded text. It was about the town's history, mostly boring stuff until I got to a chapter on disappearances. My heart raced when I saw the dates lined up with my own family history. Things changed after that. One night I was in my grandma's house working late. I heard a thud. It felt like something from the other room, but I told myself it was just the old house settling. I thought about going to check, but instead I just kept typing, my fingers flying over the keyboard. The screen glowed in the dark, casting shadows on the wall. A couple of nights later I was in bed when I heard whispering. At first I thought it was the wind, but it sounded like names. I couldn't make them out. I felt cold as the sound seemed to seep through the walls. I pulled the covers tighter around me. I was too scared to get up, but maybe that was just me being silly. The next day I decided to ask around town. I went to the diner. A few locals looked up when I walked in, but they barely acknowledged me. When I asked about the book, their eyes shifted. They avoided my questions, mumbling something about old wives' tales. I thought they might be trying to protect something, but maybe they just didn't want to talk. My mind raced back to that chapter on disappearances. It seemed like every name I heard whispered at night could be a hint, like a riddle I needed to solve. I kept seeing shadows moving in the corners of my eyes. I shook my head, telling myself it was just my imagination. But deep down, I felt something was off, like the town was holding its breath. Then one night, I was in my grandma's living room. I saw a book slide off the shelf. It landed with a thud directly at my feet. I froze. The house was silent. I bent down to pick it up. As I did, I heard the whispering again, clearer this time, and I swear I heard my name. I turned around. There was nobody there. My heart was pounding in my chest. I stared into the emptiness and dread washed over me. I couldn't shake the feeling that whatever was happening was tied to me. I felt like I was stepping into a story far older than myself, one that might not end well. I spent the next few days digging deeper. I talked to anyone who would listen. Each time I did, the whispers grew louder at night. I started keeping a notebook, writing down every name I heard, every story they told me. I was piecing together something. And the more I learned, the harder it became to breathe. The town felt darker, shadows creeping into every corner of my life. The house seemed to whisper my family's history, but I wasn't sure I wanted to hear it anymore. The following week I found myself sitting at my grandma's kitchen table, staring at an old photo album. My fingers traced the worn edge of the cover. I had opened it only to glance back at the memories, but it felt like a trap. Names danced in my mind. Missing names. Each page I turned filled me with a sense of dread. The faces smiled back at me, unaware of the darkness hiding behind their eyes. Then I spotted a name I hadn't written down. Evelyn Ray. My heart dropped. I remembered a faded photograph tucked in the album. She was my grandmother's sister, a girl who disappeared one summer in the late 50s. I could almost hear whispers in the back of my mind, the same whispers that haunted me at night. In that moment, everything felt connected. I couldn't ignore it any longer. I had to find out what happened to Evelyn. I pushed the album away and grabbed my notebook. This wasn't just research anymore. This was personal. After a quick lunch, I decided to return to the library. Mrs. Finch was at her usual spot. I approached her, determined this time to get some answers. "Do you know anything about Evelyn Ray?" I asked. Her eyes widened slightly, and in that instant I knew she did. But she shook her head, lips pressed tightly together. I felt my insides twist. It was frustrating how people were willing to dodge the truth. "You really should leave those stories alone, dear," she finally said, her voice trembling. I was stunned. The librarian was normally so composed. The past is best left buried. I didn't respond, anger bubbling underneath my skin. I spent the next few hours searching through old newspapers. Each headline echoed names I'd written down, all disappearing without a trace. I found Evelyn's obituary, but it was vague, drowned during a family picnic at the creek. I didn't buy it. That night, I could barely sleep. The shadows in my room felt alive, closing in on me. I tried to focus, desperately reviewing names in my mind. There had to be a pattern. What were the missing people connected by? Then I remembered something a local had told me. They mentioned an old creek where the townspeople would gather. I flipped through my notebook. My eyes landed on a handful of names that had surfaced much like Evelyn's. They all had ties to that creek. Suddenly, the whispering grew stronger. New names fluttered through the air. Jonas, Marie, Evelyn. They weren't names I recognized, but there was a hint of familiarity, like I had known them once before. I jolted upright in bed, heart racing again. That's when I saw it. A flash of movement in the corner of my room. A shadow, dark against the light of my lamp. The hairs on my neck stood up. "Who's there?" I called out, but my voice wavered. Silence. I felt like I was being watched. I sprang out of bed, my heart pounding. No one was there, but I knew then that I had to confront this. And soon. I picked up my notebook, eager to find the connection, the answer that would finally quiet the whispers. But just as I flipped back through the pages, a chilling realization hit me. I had been tracing a path that might lead me to Evelyn, and I couldn't shake the feeling that whatever I found could change everything. The next day, I headed to the creek, determined to dig deeper. I needed to know what lay beneath the surface, literally and figuratively. I felt like I was on the edge of something terrible. Little did I know, the answers would be waiting for me there, and they might not be what I expected. As the sun began to rise the next morning, I could barely keep my nerves in check. I pulled on my boots, grabbed my backpack, and left my house without a backward glance. Something about today felt different, like I was finally ready to face whatever had been haunting me. When I reached the creek, the water shimmered in the light. But instead of looking inviting, it seemed ominous. Overhanging branches cast strange shadows, distorting the surface. I stood there, trying to breathe past the tightening in my chest, my eyes scanning the landscape. It felt like a barrier, a threshold to something hidden. I crouched down and reached into the water, the coolness biting my fingers as I searched for anything unusual at the bank. Rocks jutted out, covered in moss. Just then, a movement caught my eye. A flash of white beneath the surface sent a jolt through me. I leaned closer, heart racing, and pulled out an old, weathered locket. It was tarnished but recognizable. The clasp slid open easily, and inside 2 small photographs stared back at me. One was of a young girl with big, curious eyes. The other was of an older man, a face I didn't recognize, but somehow it felt familiar. I turned the locket over in my hand, feeling the cold metal against my skin. Then it hit me. Evelyn. The girl in the picture could be her. My stomach churned. I needed to know more. I glanced around, half expecting someone to jump out from behind the trees, but the silence of the creek was suffocating. I shoved the locket into my pocket and decided to dig deeper. My gut told me I was close to uncovering something big. As I explored the edge of the creek, I spotted a sunken area where the ground seemed different, more disturbed. I knelt down and brushed away the dirt. The edge of something hard peeked through. With a bit of effort, I dug it out, a small wooden chest, old and worn. I hesitated, heart pounding like a drum in my ears. What if it was something terrible? But the whispers returned, urging me on. I pried the lid open, my hands trembling. Inside lay a collection of items, letters, a few more photographs, and at the very bottom what looked like an old diary. The sight of it made my palms sweat. How many secrets were buried here? I picked up the diary, its worn leather cover crumbling beneath my fingers. Just as I opened it, the air shifted. I felt a presence, like a pair of eyes watching from behind the trees. I jerked around, scanning the creek again. No one was there. My heart raced as I hurriedly tucked the items back into the chest, looking around one last time. Then I heard a sound, a low rustle from the brush. Fear washed over me. Someone was close. I started to back away when unexpectedly my foot caught on something hidden in the undergrowth, sending me sprawling to the ground. The diary flew from my hand, landing open on the ground. Pages ripped in the struggle, fluttering around me like whispers of the past called to life. I froze. The rustling grew louder. Panic coursed through me as I clutched the chest tightly. This was no longer just about Evelyn. Whatever secrets were in that diary might have awakened something I couldn't control. I scrambled to my feet, ready to flee, but the rustling grew closer and I knew, whatever was out there, it wasn't going to let me go that easily. I took a shaky breath, glancing around frantically. The creeping feeling that I was being watched intensified. I couldn't just stand there. I had to go. As I turned to make my escape, a figure broke through the thicket, stepping into the fading morning light. It was a woman, her hair tangled and wild, eyes wide with a mix of caution and curiosity. For a second I thought I might recognize her, but then she smiled in a way that felt off, almost predatory. "You're digging up old stories," she said, her voice low, like a whisper meant for secrets. I stumbled back, clenching the chest against my chest. "Who are you?" She stepped closer, and I caught a glimpse of something glinting in her hand, an object that looked like another locket. My heart raced. "I know what you're looking for," she said, tilting her head. "And I know the risks." "What do you mean?" I stammered, every instinct screaming at me to run. "There's a reason some things are buried." She gestured towards the chest. "You don't want to wake the past, trust me." The rustling stopped, and a heavy silence fell between us. I sensed that behind the trees, something or someone was holding its breath, waiting. I felt the weight of the diary's pages still lost in the debris around me. I shifted my eyes back and forth between the woman and the forest, trying to gauge my escape. "I wasn't looking for trouble," I managed to say. "I just found this." She laughed softly, a sound that sent a chill down my spine. "You don't just find things like that, sweetheart. They find you." I turned to take a step back, to make my escape, but before I could move, she reached out, grabbing my wrist. Her grip tightened, and I could feel the pulse of something strange flowing between us. "Listen," she said, her tone shifting from playful to urgent. "There are stories here that need to stay buried. Let them lie. You won't just uncover truths, you'll invite chaos." Her words sent a shiver through me. Who was she? What kind of chaos could she be talking about? I needed answers, but fear gripped my throat. I thought about the photographs, the diary, the very secrets tied to Evelyn. Just then, a low growl emerged from the brush, sending my heart racing. The woman's face turned serious, her eyes darting toward the noise. "We need to leave, now." I jerked free from her grasp and took off down the creek, adrenaline propelling me forward. Behind me, I heard the rustling again, now accompanied by a snarl like that of a wild animal. Whatever had been watching was finally revealing itself. A sharp crack echoed, like a branch snapping underfoot, and I glanced back only to see the woman in the shadows. She gestured for me to come back, but I couldn't. Something dark and massive burst from the tree line. Its eyes gleamed with a fierce hunger. I didn't know how much time I had, but I wasn't going to find out. I sprinted, stomach churning, the chest bouncing at my side. Then I remembered the diary. What if it held the key to everything? But with every step I took, I felt that whatever was chasing me was more determined than ever. I glanced back as I ran, and in that moment, my foot slipped on the wet stones, and I fell hard. Pain shot through me, and all I could think before I hit the ground was that I had awakened something terrible. The last thing I saw before it all went dark was the glint of something in the underbrush, something that looked like another locket, and I knew this was just the beginning. When I came to, the air was cool against my flushed skin. I blinked against the sunlight that streamed through the trees, my heart racing as I tried to catch my breath. The pain in my ankle throbbed, but my attention was drawn to the rustling around me, a low, ominous sound. Pushing myself up, I scanned the area. The woman was gone, but the forest felt alive, like it was watching me. The sense of danger was thick, more palpable than before. I put weight on my ankle, wincing as the pain shot through me. I had to move. That's when I saw it. Half buried beneath a layer of damp leaves was a small, leather-bound book. My stomach dropped. It looked like another diary, and I felt a pull towards it that I couldn't explain. With shaking hands, I dug it out, brushing off the dirt. The leather felt worn, like it had stories embedded in its very fibers. The growling was a constant reminder that I wasn't alone, and I didn't have much time. I flipped the diary open as I edged backward, trying to find cover behind a nearby tree. My fingers trembled as I turned the pages, scanning the faint, spidery handwriting. But the words didn't make sense. They were different, scrambled, as if it was written in code. "God, what are you trying to say?" I whispered to myself, bracing against the tree trunk. Then a scrap of paper fell from the diary, fluttering to the ground like a leaf. I scooped it up and unfolded it, revealing a map. It was rough and sketchy, marked with uneven lines and symbols I didn't understand. My heart raced when I noticed a note scribbled in the corner. "Find the hollow tree." The growling intensified. Whatever chased me was still out there, and it sounded closer. I slipped the diary and the map into my bag, glancing around to figure out my next move. Under the thicket, the dark mass loomed, shifting and prowling as if waiting for its chance. I didn't want to stick around to find out. I had to get away. Clenching my jaw against the pain, I took a deep breath and pushed myself upright. I followed the creek, where the water gurgled, hoping it could lead me to safety, or at least a path away from whatever lurked behind me. With every step, I could feel the weight of the diary and the secrets it held. The hollow tree. What did it mean? Was it part of my past? Or did the woman know more than she let on? Suddenly I heard a crash, a branch snapping nearby. Panic surged through me, fueling my escape. I ran faster, the world becoming a blur of greens and browns. My instincts told me to keep going, but my mind was racing, weighing the danger behind me against the mystery I was stepping into. As I skidded around a bend, I spotted a massive oak, its trunk hollowed out like a cave. That's when I heard it. A guttural growl, louder and more furious. Whatever was stalking me had found its pace. I didn't know if it would be my end, or if I would find answers inside that tree. I had to decide. But before I could think it through, I plunged into the shadows of the hollow tree, hoping that within its confines I might evade whatever had hunted me down. Inside the hollow tree, darkness enveloped me like a heavy blanket. I crouched low, the cool, damp wood pressing against my back. The growling outside reverberated in my chest, each sound sending spikes of ice through my veins. I held my breath, straining to hear anything beyond my pounding heart. The growl faded, replaced by shuffling footsteps. I couldn't tell where the creature was, but I was sure it was searching. I pressed deeper into the shadows, trying to make myself small and invisible. My hands fumbled in my bag, digging for the diary as if it would offer some kind of protection. I carefully pulled it out, the pages fluttering in the slight breeze that seeped through the hollow. I ran my fingers over the map again, hoping it would provide some answers or guidance, but the symbols swam before my eyes, only adding to my confusion. "Come on," I muttered. "There's gotta be something here." I needed to focus. Just then, the growling returned, closer this time. I could almost picture the creature sniffing around outside the tree's base. Panic bubbled up inside me. I couldn't stay here. Knowing that I had to find a way out, I opened the diary again, flipping pages frantically. One passage caught my eye, a series of drawings at the bottom of a page. They looked like symbols, similar to those on the map. A series of circles and arrows leading towards a winding path that seemed to overlap with the words Hollow Oak. "Is that what this is?" I whispered, desperate to connect the pieces. "What does it mean?" The rumbling made the ground vibrate beneath me. I glanced back towards the entrance, my breath hitching as the mass outside shifted again. Fear seeped into every corner of my mind. I couldn't let it find me. The map showed an unusual route towards something marked as the heart of the forest. Maybe that was where I needed to go. If there were answers, perhaps that was where they lay. With my heart racing, I folded the map carefully and shoved it back into my bag. I took a deep breath and began to inch my way out of the hollow, praying the creature was distracted. As I peered outside, I caught sight of its shadow moving in the underbrush. Cold sweat trickled down my spine. It was huge, muscular, with dark fur and eyes that glinted like polished stones. I slipped out of the hollow, moving quietly behind the tree trunk, my body pressed against the rough bark. I could feel the tree's energy surging around me, protective and ancient. Just as I was about to make a run for it, the creature stopped, freezing in place. Its nose twitched as it turned towards me, nostrils flaring. I stifled a gasp, fear locking my feet to the ground. "Please," I thought, willing it to lose interest. But then another sound shattered the tension, a rustle from a nearby bush. The creature snapped its head toward the noise, eyeing something in the shadows. I didn't dare breathe. I quickly glanced back at the map, the pulse of adrenaline kicking in. If I was going to escape, now was my chance. I took a step back, keeping my eyes on the creature, when I noticed something glimmering in the dirt. An object half buried, perhaps lost like me. With one final look at the creature, I decided. I had to move, but I needed one last piece before I could run. I crouched lower, reaching for the glimmer in the dirt, praying it would give me the edge I needed. The creature's growl nearly drowned out my thoughts as I grasped the object, heart pounding, waiting for it to strike. I could feel it watching me. Then everything went dark. I jolted awake, my breath coming in quick gasps. The darkness felt thick, almost alive. I blinked, trying to make sense of my surroundings, but the pressure in my chest told me to stay still. I reached out, my hands brushing against cold dirt and something metallic. Whatever I had grabbed before everything went dark. My fingers found the outline of a small, tarnished key. The significance of it stirred my mind, but before I could think on it, a growl echoed from nearby, deeper and more resonant than before. I froze, heart hammering. The creature was close. I could hear its heavy breathing, each inhalation sending a spike of fear coursing through me. The thought of being trapped like this was unbearable. I had to move. Struggling to calm myself, I took a breath and focused on the key. Its cool metal grounded me for a moment. I needed to find a way out, but where to? The map. My mind raced as I recalled the route to the heart of the forest. The key might be important for something ahead if I could just figure out what. Quietly, I turned to get my bearings. The hollow tree felt different now, alive with unseen energy. I tried to gather my courage and slipped the key into my pocket. I crawled toward the base, peering out carefully. The underbrush was still, the creature seemingly distracted by something in the distance. I spotted a flicker of light through the trees. It was faint but enough to guide me. With a low growl still rumbling nearby, I forced myself to move, crawling backwards and then standing up, keeping low. I was just about to inch away from the tree when a powerful lantern beam swept across the ground, illuminating the area in front of me. I froze again, nearly caught off guard. A figure emerged from behind a nearby rock formation, the light illuminating a tall, shadowy outline. My heart raced for a different reason. Was this person a friend or foe? "Hey!" the figure called, voice rich and gravelly. "You!" I hesitated, caught between fear and curiosity. The light flickered across the terrain, catching hints of a worn, rugged jacket and a peculiar badge pinned to the figure's chest. Something about it felt familiar, tugging at my memory like a splinter. "Come here, quickly!" the stranger urged, glancing over their shoulder as if expecting trouble. I glimpsed back at the darkness behind me, then made my choice. I stepped out and dashed toward the figure, my heart racing with every movement, every sound. "What's the key for?" the stranger asked urgently, looking at me with piercing eyes. I fumbled for words, panic swirling around. I don't know yet. I found it, and..." Then came another growl, closer this time. The figure's expression shifted from concern to alarm. "We have to go," they said, grabbing my arm and pulling me toward the light. I glanced back once more, fighting against a rush of dread. Whatever that creature was, it was almost upon us. Then I heard it, a low snap of branches just behind the hollow tree. With that, we plunged deeper into the woods, the light flickering and fading into the dark as the beast's growl swallowed the night. The light illuminated the path ahead as we hurried through the underbrush. My heart raced, matching the rhythm of our footfalls. I glanced at my companion, trying to gauge if they were truly a help or just another danger in these woods. "Where are we going?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "Toward shelter," the stranger replied, urgency layering each word. "Just keep moving." The growl echoed again, closer now. The air thickened with fear, and every crack of a twig sent jolts through me. I stole a frantic look back, dreading what I might see, but the shadows swallowed it all. "What's after us?" I pressed, anxiety twisting my stomach. They hesitated, their jaw tightening. "Something that shouldn't be here, just don't stop." I followed, working hard to match their pace. We dodged low-hanging branches and leapt over roots as the night enveloped us. The flickering lantern was now a beacon, but I could hear the creature gaining ground behind us. "Is there a way to fight it?" I asked, panic creeping into my voice. Not with just a key and hope, but it might not come to that. They shot me a glance, and I could see resolve in their eyes. "We need to reach the stone circle." The what? I had never heard of such a place. "It's an ancient site. It has power," they explained, breathing heavily as we pushed forward. "If we can get there, we can protect ourselves." My mind raced. Power. What kind of power? Did the key have something to do with it? I opened my mouth to ask, but another growl burst through the night, deeper this time. "Faster!" the strangers shouted, urgency crackling in their voice. We darted between trees as the darkness pressed in, the glow of our lantern flickering with our every move. I suddenly stumbled, catching myself just before falling. The key in my pocket felt heavier, an anchor of uncertainty. "In here!" my companion called, pulling me toward a narrow opening in the rock. I squeezed through after them, the walls cool against my skin. For a moment we could hear nothing but our harsh breathing. Once inside, we paused. Darkness enveloped us, and I could feel the tremors of my body. My thoughts raced. What kind of power could a place like this even have? "Do you really think it will protect us?" "I hope so," they said, glancing toward the entrance. But the creature is powerful too. The stone circle can amplify what we use it for. We just need to survive until then. Until what? A sudden crash echoed outside, rocks shifting as the creature barreled toward us again. There was no time to answer as the shadows flickered and danced around us. I felt the ground tremble, and the reality of what was at stake hit me. "That sound," I whispered, dread wrapping around my throat. "What if it finds us?" The stranger looked at me, eyes fierce. "Then we'll have to use the key." Before I could question them further, a sound like heavy breathing filled the space outside. I stayed still, heart in my throat, as the air grew disquiet. That's when I saw it, glowing eyes peering in from the dark entrance. The eyes widened, a glowing pair piercing the darkness like two hot coals. They lingered, unblinking, assessing us. I held my breath, hoping the cold stone walls would protect us. My heart thumped in my chest, a frantic drumbeat that matched the unease twisting in my gut. "What is it?" I whispered, my voice trembling. "Can it get in here?" My companion pressed closer to me, scanning the entrance, their brow furrowed in concentration. "I don't know," they murmured, "but we have to stay quiet." Another growl reverberated through the air. It felt closer this time, rolling through the rocks, vibrating in my bones. The eyes retreated slightly, but I felt the creature lingering, waiting for the right moment. "Is the stone circle far from here?" I asked, panic rising. "It's not far," they assured me, but I could hear the strain in their voice. "Once the creature leaves, we'll make a run for it." "Do you really think the place can protect us?" I asked. I didn't know if I clung to hope or fear. Yes, but it requires belief. We need to channel whatever energy the key holds. They motioned to the key, now feeling like it pulsed against my thigh. "We don't have time to second-guess our intent. What if it doesn't work? What if we die here?" The stranger turned sharply to face me. "Then we fight, but we're not going to give up just yet." Their voice resonated with determination, and I felt a flicker of strength igniting within me. Suddenly the creature let out a deep snarl, and the ground rumbled again. Dust fell from the ceilings as a crack erupted at the entrance. I winced and pressed my back against the cool stone, my mind racing with the terrifying possibility of being trapped. "Now!" my companion hissed, and with that, they surged toward the entrance, gripping the lantern tightly. "Wait," I protested, but they were already outside, illuminating the space with a warm yellow glow. The creature's eyes flared again, now more than just two small points in the darkness. The full outline of its massive form came into view, muscles rippling under matted fur. "Get back," I yelled, but my voice felt small against the impending doom. The creature lunged forward, its growl echoing harshly, ready to strike. I had no choice but to follow my companion into the light, my feet moving on instinct. As we dashed into the clearing, a chilling howl filled the air. The lantern flickered dangerously, and I felt a rush of wind as the creature followed us. "Don't!" my companion urged, skidding to a halt at the edge of the stone circle, a ring of ancient stones covered in moss. I hesitated, glancing back to see the creature towering over us, eyes locked onto my companion. My heart raced as I could almost feel its breath on my skin. "Use the key," they shouted, their voice cutting through the chaos. "Now!" With shaking hands, I pulled the key from my pocket. It felt alive, radiating warmth like a heartbeat against my palm. I took a step forward, nerves surging as I pressed it against one of the stones. The moment the metal touched the surface, the air crackled with energy, and I felt a force field envelop me. But then, the ground began to tremble, instability surging beneath my feet. "What's happening?" I cried, fear clawing at my chest. "Focus on your intent. It can sense your fear." Just as I thought we were safe, shadows from the trees stretched out toward us, and behind them I caught sight of more glowing eyes. More than just one creature. This couldn't be the end. Would the key truly work in time? Panic surged as the shadows converged, but I clutched the key tighter, letting its warmth seep into my palm. I had to channel something, fuel my intent with whatever courage was left inside me. "Think of Evelyn," I heard my companion say. "Channel that energy. She needs to be freed. Evelyn." I focused on her name, the echo of the whispers that had haunted me, stitching together the threads of my family and this chaos. My heart raced as I remembered the locket, the diary, the connection to the creek. With every ounce of strength, I visualized Evelyn's spirit, both a ghost and a guide. The key pulsed in rhythm with my heartbeat, and as I pressed it harder against the stone, I felt a pull from the earth. The energy shifted, vibrating through my chest like a voice rising from deep within the ground. I closed my eyes, prepared to scream my intention into the universe. We are not here to be taken. We are here to uncover the truth. A tremor of energy rippled outward, and with it, the stone circle seemed to come alive. Whispers coiled around us, encircling my mind with the fragments of names forgotten in time. The glowing eyes shifted slightly, as if caught off guard by the sudden power pulsing through the air, the darkness ebbing back for just a heartbeat. "Yes," my companion shouted, eyes wide with determination. "Don't let it go. Push forward." But as I steadied myself, I became acutely aware of the shadows multiplying, creeping closer, a chorus of low growls blending in with the winds. I turned my focus back to the key, visualizing the swirling energy spiraling outward from the stone circle. They were drawn to it, powerful and fearfully curious. I felt a rush as the energy coiled to a peak, and suddenly everything burst open, radiating light, bright, blinding light that erased the shadows. I felt the barrier empower us, knitting together the fabric of my intention with the pull of the earth's energy. But as the light shimmered and pulsed, my companion's face contorted with urgency. Now, the final push. Picture them, all of them who vanished. The phrase ignited a flood of memories, their names piling quickly in my mind. Evelyn, Jonas, Marie. The weight of their stories woven into my own, entangled like vines, pushing through in waves. I focused harder, channeling each name into the key, directing everything I had at the glowing essence forming around us. Suddenly, the noise of growling morphed into a cacophony of snarls and howls. The dark figures surged, but the brilliance emanating from the circle held them back, drawing the very fabric of the night as if it were a blanket, a fight between light and dark. I could feel the very air vibrating with its struggle. Just as it peaked, dread filled my heart. Would this truly send them away? Or would we unleash something worse? With a final surge of will, I thrust the key forward, fully expecting the earth to absorb my intention. The light exploded outward, and with it came a wash of warm energy that pushed back the shadows, flooding the grove in brilliant light. Then, just as abruptly, everything fell silent. I opened my eyes, keeping my gaze on the clearing. The light faded, but something had shifted, the atmosphere feeling lighter. The echoes of the past, those names I had called forth, now lingered like whispers in the breeze. We stood alone in the stone circle, wrapped in an uneasy calm. The creatures, had they vanished? I strained to hear anything, afraid what I might find. "I think it worked," my companion said, cautiously stepping toward me, relief flooding their features. But even as their words anchored me, an unsettling thought bubbled up from my core. Had we truly banished the creatures? Or had we merely bought ourselves a moment of peace? I looked toward the woods where shadows melted into the trees, swallowing any certainty. I felt a lingering twinge in my chest, questions gnawing. Was the darkness fully gone? Or had I only succeeded in entangling myself further in the web of these stories? Holding the key tightly, I thought about its potential, its connection to the town's history and my family's past. I didn't know if I'd find complete answers. Maybe there was no resolution. But looking around at the remnants of the fading glow, I felt a flicker of determination ignite within. I could keep searching. I moved through the circle, glancing one last time to the trees lining the path out of the clearing. Some questions would linger unanswered, but I would find Evelyn. Her name flickered in my heart, and I knew that I couldn't walk away from this unfinished story. I stepped forward, ready to face whatever would come next, but one last thought echoed through my mind as I retraced my steps back into the woods. I would never truly know if the darkness had vanished, or if we had just disturbed something much deeper.